In this video, we will see how to edit sport activity on a Garmin Instinct 3, AMOLED, and Solar. It's the same thing, it's just not displayed the same way. So, first of all, when you want to start an activity, you go on the GPS button over here, and then you can select an activity. From there, I'm gonna put this one on the side because it's just better looking on this one, and it's the very same thing. So you can select your activity that you want to do right now, and if it's not into that list, you can go at the very bottom of that page where you will find that plus and add, and all the activity will be here. So you can select any activity that you would like to add, and they are separated into kind. So like this, running, cycling, and there's a lot. About what we have seen on top, just go back, it will be quicker. Multisport, this is not something that I use, but it's something that you can use. You can create triathlon, duathlon, break, swim, run, or custom multisport activity. But what I personally do is that I never set this up, because when you use the multisport, you have to stick to the order of the activity that you set into the watch. What I do is that if you press and hold the menu button, go up to System, and then go down to Hotkeys. Right there. There's here, that's what I said. When I hold Start, it's Change Sport. So when I'm into an activity, I'll show that to you right now. If I go for a walk, I start my activity, and then I want to switch to another activity. I just press and hold, and then I can switch to hike, for example. And then I've just switched to hike. So at the end, this will be a multi-sport activity. Let's discard this one. All right. So, once you select an activity, and so for example, let's say that I want to modify my walk. Well, actually, I could start my activity by hitting the walk over here, but I can also go in the menu right here. And then I'm able to set a training, a navigation, if you created a course that you want to follow, those kind of thing, you can find it here. Data screens, that's what we're going to spend the most time into. This is where everything happens. This is what you see when you are during your activity. Of course, you can do that before you do the activity from here, but you can also do that during the activity. So if the activity is already started, all you need to do is to press and hold the menu button and go on, walk setting over here, and then into data screens. That was the first. And then you can do all of those switch that we are about to see. But before we go further, I just want to show you that you can do all of those edits into the Garmin Connect app. So when you reach your watch, you can go into activities and apps, select the walk, and you have access to the data screens and all of those features that we are about to see. But if we go into data screens, you can choose one of your watch face and select the fields that are inside. This is not something that I personally like to use. I like to do that directly into the watch. So let's start with the AMOLED model. I'll show you everything on this one because it's just better looking and there's a bit more of options. And then I'll show you quickly how to do it on the Solar model. So again, we go into walk, and then we will edit this. We will go into data screens, and from here we can edit that page. We have to press on that button. Well, actually, this is a watch face. We can move to a second one, And we can add another one. You can have multiple page. So if you want to have one for something special, I think there are some with shoe screen, custom data, HR gauge, virtual partner. Yes, there are some other. You want a compass, for example. Compass. All right. So now you have a page with a compass. You could add this virtual partner with a time. I'll not deep dive into that one today. Okay. Here, data fields. So, first page. If I edit this, I can change the layout. There's multiple layout. So personally, I like to have a screen with a lot of data, but you can also have a screen with a small number of data, but bigger data. That's really up to you. Let's pick this one. Then we will change the data fields, and this is where it becomes interesting. When you select the data, you can navigate from a data to another with those two buttons. And when it's blinking, it's the one that you can select to modify. So if you select it with the GPS button, you can then change the information. I'm gonna see everything one by one. If I go on top, I've got the timer fields, because everything is separate by fields. See, we've got timer, distance, pace, speed, heart rate, cadence, temperature, elevation, compass, navigation, workout, other, graphical, and chart. And when we get into a field, there is those data. So let's go into timer. We've got the timer, we've got the lap time, and we've got the last lap time. The lap is when you press that button here, the set, it will create a lap. So basically reset the time to 0. The average lap time, elapsed time. What is this? Elapsed time. Okay. Elapsed time. The difference between elapsed time and timer is that the timer will count the time from the beginning of the activity, but will pause every time you pause the activity. So for example, if you start an activity at midnight and pause it at midnight and 30 minutes and start it back at 1 o'clock, then you will have 30 minutes on the timer, but 1 hour on the elapsed time. Overall, ahead, behind. If you set a target with a virtual partner, for example, that we saw a bit earlier, you would see how much time you are ahead or behind your target. And if you want to set something, so let's say that I want to set the timer, I just hit the GPS and it's done, and then I can pass to the next information. We will stick to the one here on top because there's a bit more information. There are some data fields that cannot be displayed on the other part. You'll see why. So after the timer, we've got the distance. Distance fields, what we got: distance, lap distance, last lap distance, and distance. That's it. Very simple one. Pace field. So we got a pace chart. So this will be your pace with a chart behind. Just your pace without chart. Average pace, lap pace, last lap pace, and we are back again. Usually those ones with the charts, sometimes they don't want to display into the middle screen. Probably that one would have worked. Speed field, speed chart, speed. Basically, that's the same thing as the previous one, but oh no, we've got some other thing. Maximum speed, so the maximum you have to reach. And the vertical speed. What is the vertical speed? It's the number of meter that you climb per minute. That's it. Heart rate fields. So your heart rate with a gauge. So your actual heart rate and the gauge. so zone 1 to 5. Your heart rate with zone ratio, I think this one will show up a graph of how much time you spend in each zone. Heart rate with a chart. Heart rate, average heart rate zone, aerobic training effect, anaerobic training effect, training effect, so you've got both information displayed, heart rate max, and heart rate reserve. What is the difference between this? Let's do a little graph. So let's say that your max heart rate is 200. If you're pumping at 100, your heart rate percentage at 100 is the half of 200, so it's 50%. But accordingly to the reserve heart rate, your minimum heart rate is 50. So let's say that you go below 50, you die. 200 over, you die. So you can go between 50 and 200. So if you are at 100, this means that you are at 33%. 33 at 100, 66 at 150, and 100 at 200. So this is the difference. And then it becomes very boring because we got the average of that and the average for a lap and those kind of thing, and that's it. Then we've got the cadence field. So cadence, average cadence, lap cadence, last lap cadence, cadence with a gauge, and we restart. Then temperature field, so the actual temperature, the 24-hour maximum temperature. This one, I'm not sure if it's based on the forecast or the internal thermometer of the watch. 24-hour minimum, same thing, and temperature again. This field is a bit more complicated. So average ascent and average descent is how much meter you climbed in average since the beginning of the activity. So you did climb 100 meter and you left, that's a clock, 10 minutes ago. This means that the average will be 10 meters per minute. But then we've got the maximum ascent and the maximum descent. And this, let's say that your very first minute, you did climb, 20 meters. And all of the rest of the 80 meters, you did climb it in the last 9 minutes. So 20 meters will be your max. In other words, the best you did in 1 minute was 20 meters. What else? Elevation chart. So this is your actual elevation with a chart. So your elevation chart. Your elevation without chart. Total ascent. So this is the number of meters you did climb since the beginning of the activity. For example, on your first 10 minutes, you did this. That was 100 meters. Then you descent 50 meters. Then you climb 25. Well, at this point, your total is 100 plus 25. So it's 125 meters. What else? We got the same thing for the descent. Actually, this would be only 50 at this point. And we've got, if you set lap, we're gonna find exactly the very same option that we've just seen. Minimum elevation will be the lowest you have been, and maximum elevation will be the maximum altitude you will have reached. And this would not be 100 over here. Because if you start at elevation 500, well, there you are at 600, because 500 plus 100, 600. Then GPS elevation, so that's the elevation only based by the GPS. Total ascent and descent. And the grade, so the grade of the hill you are climbing right now. And that's it for ascent. The next field is the compass field. Heading, GPS heading, and compass heading. Let's start with this one. The compass heading, well, if I go on the next one, as you can see here, we've got a compass, and it says in which direction we are pointing just right now. What we do have right now is a compass heading. There's a compass into the watch. So this one will tell you in which direction your watch is pointing. It's pointing into that direction. So that's the compass heading. When we go into GPS heading, I'll do a little graph of that. So we've got north, south, west, east. And let's say that you are traveling just like that into that direction and you move a little bit. Well, every second, this is your GPS graph. So every second you walk, your watch record a dot. And it's the orientation of that line on the map that will dictate the orientation you go. So this point between this point, this direction. This point between this point, this direction. So this is a GPS heading. So now that we have seen that we have a compass heading and a GPS heading, what heading is for? Basically, this one will take the best possible. So if you are walking, this will be a GPS heading for sure. And if you're not walking, this will be a compass heading. So, compass gauge. And we restart. So we've done the tour of that one. Navigation fields. Distance remaining. So, okay, navigation fields is based on the fact that you are actually using navigation. So you have a route, you have an itinerary, you've got a point that you need to reach. There's an itinerary inside the watch for this to work, of course. So you could have the distance remaining to your objective, an estimation of the total distance, velocity made good. Google this one. I absolutely have no idea what this is, and I don't want to explain it. Vertical speed to target, bearing, course, of course. There's a lot of stuff. Altitude, estimated time arrival, estimated time remaining, destination waypoint, next waypoint. That would probably be distance between all of those. There's a lot of data over here. I'm not going into that. Workout fields, repetition if you're at the gym. Step distance. Step distance. I'm not sure. I think it's the distance of your step. Step time. Next one. Other fields. Total calories. Active calories. So active calories is the number of calories that you would not have burned if you were not into an activity. Then we've got the battery percentage, battery hours, the GPS signal, number of laps, the sunrise time, and the sunset time. Unfortunately, it's not possible to have the next occurrence. You have to choose. Time of the day. Time of the day with seconds, number of steps into your activity, the load, respiration rate, and we restart. And there was still another one, graphical. So I think we've pretty much seen those one already in the previous pages. And you got charts also that we have seen in the previous pages. So that was a long tour. So you choose all the information that you want to have over here. What I personally like is to have layout, a page with a lot of information that I don't want to change. So I usually pick that one, for example, and then you just pick the information that you want to have in here. What I would do here, probably the time of no. Okay, let's say I would put my distance and I would put my distance, my speed, my average speed, my heart rate, the time of the day, maybe my average heart rate, or steps or calories, something like that. And if you want to have other information to display, you can put it onto another page. Those ones that you don't want to have access very often. So that's it. Now, let's go with this guy. You'll see it's a bit different. I'm gonna go quick into that. See here, if I want to go into option, it says press up. Then I can go into walk settings, data screens. This one, fortunately, see if I will edit it, it's the very same thing. I can change the layout. The maximum information I can have on this screen is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this one. Select it. And then you can change the field. So instead of doing it on the page, you choose the field. And when you look in the little window over here, you see which field it is. So you see the page right there, and then you can modify it. So let's say I want to change the field number 3, hit the GPS button. I've got the same fields and all of those things, and I'm able to change it. Navigation field, you see it's exactly the very same information. It's just displayed differently, but it's the same thing. Let's return to that one. What else? Oh, walk, edit. What else do we have? You can change the power mode of the activity if you want to. You see that changed the time of the battery. So you can change to have it normal, but you can disable, for example, the heart rate. That will give you a bit more time. You can have a less max accuracy, so more accuracy but less time. And you can create some power mode if you go into, well, if you exit the app here and power manager, power modes, and then you can create a new power mode. So if you want fewer GPS and those kind of things, you can create something to have more battery. Walk with more settings. Data screens, alerts. You can create alerts for maximum heart rate or minimum after a time. Maybe you want to walk for 5 minutes and then stop, something like that. If you want to walk for 10 kilometers and then stop, you can put yourself a reminder. You got reminder for a lot of things. Then power modes. Yes, we already see metronome to help you to keep cadence. Auto lap, I always disable that. I don't want to have a notification for every kilometers, but you can also change the distance of the lap if that's something you want. Auto pause, I leave that to off, but if you want to leave it on or enable it, that will pause your activity when you are not walking. Auto climb, if you want to have a page for when you climb, you can set this page into auto climb, and as soon as you climb for a certain number of meters that you can set, it will switch to the climbing page. 3D speed, 3D distance. Okay, there's a little principle If you are, let's say, on that map, that does 1 kilometer on every side. That's a totally perfect square. And you cross that, and that's a totally straight line. You would have done 1 kilometers. But let's say that if we're looking at this on another side, and that is also a totally perfect square, well, you did start from here, but did climb like that. That was also 1 kilometer. So that is the same kilometer, but as you can see here, you did maybe gain, let's say, 10 meters in elevation. So we would have to do a little bit of calculation to know what would have really been the distance of that. But when the 3D distance or speed is disabled, what you climb doesn't count as a distance. So on the watch, you would have 1 kilometer plus 10 meters of elevation gain. While with the 3D distance, you would have a bit more than 1 kilometers and still your 10 meters of climb. A lap key, which is this one, if you want to enable it or disable it. Auto scroll, if you want to scroll from a page to another automatically. Broadcast earth rate could be great for some activity if you have a device that would need to record your heart rate. It does broadcast the heart rate over Bluetooth Smart. Strobe, if you want to automatically enable the strobe, the flashlight, after, for example, status off, after sunset or on. So let's say that you're into the running application and that after sunset you want a strobe on your watch. Automatically you can set this up over here. I never tested that one. Satellite. Here again, that would change. You could set it to GPS only. Personally, I would set GPS only for walking and maybe multi-band for hiking, because you have the trees and all those things. And I say that because I live in a very small city. But if you do live in New York City, for example, maybe that you want to have all the multi-band all the time. That's depending on where you are. Record temperature, yeah, for sure. Power save timeout, it's just the time that it takes to the app to disconnect if you're not using it. You can change accent color or rename it and restart the activity to default. So I think that was enough for today. I hope this was helpful. Really hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching that video, and I hope to see you again into another one.